Hi, I am Jethro A. Giganan, a grade 12 STEM student of Malayan Colleges, Laguna. This video presentation is a requirement for my disaster readiness and risk reduction subject. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about HIV and AIDS, which is very timely and relevant here in the Philippines. And how did the world respond to this global pandemic? So, let's start. First, what is a pandemic? According to livescience.com, a pandemic is the global outbreak of a disease. Pandemics are generally classified as epidemics first, which is the rapid spread of a disease across a particular region or regions. Throughout history, disease outbreaks had affected the entire humanity, sometimes changing the course of history and, at times, signaling the end of entire civilizations. An example of these global disease outbreaks or pandemic is the HIV and AIDS. Now, let's talk in particular what HIV and AIDS is. HIV.gov says that the HIV, or Human Immunodeficiency virus, is a virus that attacks cells that help the body fight infections, making a person more vulnerable to other infections and diseases. It is spread by contact with certain bodily fluids of a person with HIV, most commonly during unprotected sex. It is first identified in 1981. HIV is the cause of one of humanity's deadliest and most persistent epidemics. Now, where did it come from? The AIDS Institute tells us that scientists identified a type of chimpanzee in West Africa as the source of HIV infection in humans. They believe that the chimpanzee version of the immunodeficiency virus, called simian immunodeficiency virus or SIV, most likely was transmitted to humans and mutated into HIV when humans hunted these chimpanzees for meat and came into contact with their infected blood. Over decades, the virus slowly spread across Africa and later into other parts of the world. What is AIDS? AIDS is the late stage of HIV that occurs when a person's immune system is severely damaged because of the virus. In the United States, most people with HIV do not develop AIDS because taking HIV medicine every day as prescribed stops the progression of the disease. Without HIV medicine, people with AIDS typically survive about 3 years. Once someone has a dangerous, opportunistic illness, life expectancy without treatment falls to about 1 year. How could this global pandemic have been avoided? In Washington, August 25, 1997, an AIDS author said that the AIDS epidemic could have been prevented in the mid-80s if appropriate public health measures have been implemented, and the dissemination of misleading information and the efforts of the hierarchy of organized medicine to block implementation are responsible for the spread of this disease. Who are at greater risk and most affected by HIV and AIDS? According to CDC.gov, all Americans are affected by the HIV epidemic, and some populations bear an especially heavy burden and account for the largest numbers of HIV infections. The hard-hit populations are gay and bisexual men of all races and ethnicities, African Americans, Latinos, IDUs or injection drug users, and transgender individuals. The high percentage of gay and bisexual men who are living with HIV means that, as a group, they have a greater risk of being exposed to HIV. Most gay and bisexual men get HIV from having anal sex without using condoms or without taking medicines to prevent or treat HIV. Anal sex is the riskiest type of sex for getting HIV or passing it on to others, called HIV transmission. Other factors are negative attitudes, homophobia, stigma, and discrimination about homosexuality that discourage gay and bisexual men from getting tested for HIV and finding health care to prevent and treat HIV. In many ways, African Americans have been hit harder by HIV than any other racial or ethnic group in the United States. Why? It is because of lack of awareness, distrust, and fear. Many black people may be HIV positive and not know it, so they continue to spread the virus while also getting sicker. In 2014, only 59% of African Americans living with HIV were taking medicine for it. In 2015, more than half of those who died of HIV were African American. Other factors that contribute to the overwhelming numbers of infected African Americans are unprotected sex and STDs, poverty, and drug injection. Most African American men and women get HIV when they don't use a condom or other protection when they have sex with a man. It's easier for someone who has another sexually transmitted disease or STD like gonorrhea to get or pass HIV, and the infection rates for STDs are higher for African Americans. Poverty hinders the infected from having access to information or options for HIV testing and treatment. Some women may feel that they can't protect themselves in a sexual relationship when they depend on their partner financially. Sharing drug needles or syringes with someone who is infected with HIV is the second most common way African American men and women get HIV. It spreads HIV through blood contact. Being high may also lead to risky sexual behavior. Drug dependence or addiction can make money problems worse, and people may be willing to trade unsafe sex for drugs. How did the world respond to the growing pandemic? Approximately 76 million people have become infected with HIV since the start of the epidemic. Today, there are approximately 38 million people currently living with HIV, and tens of millions of people have died of AIDS-related causes since the beginning of the epidemic. Over the past 2 decades, in particular, major global efforts have been mounted to address the epidemic, and significant progress have been made. The number of people newly infected with HIV, especially children, and the number of AIDS-related deaths have declined over the years, and the number of people with HIV receiving treatment increased to 25.4 million in 2019. HIV treatment includes the use of combination antiretroviral therapy or ART to attack the virus itself, and medications to prevent and treat the many opportunistic infections that can occur when the immune system is compromised by HIV. Looking ahead, AIDS estimates at least $26.2 billion will be needed annually by 2020 to meet global targets to end AIDS as a global public health threat by 2030. How did the world recover from the pandemic? Apparently, there is still no cure for HIV and AIDS. Treatments such as antiretroviral treatment that can control the virus help people with HIV live long and healthy lives. Researchers and scientists believe that we can find a cure for HIV. We know a lot about HIV as much as certain cancers. Scientists are researching two types of cure, a functional cure and a sterilizing cure for HIV. A functional cure would suppress the amount of HIV virus in the body to such low levels that it can't be detected or make you ill, but it would still be present. Some people think that antiretroviral treatment is effectively a functional cure, but most define a functional cure as something that suppresses the virus without the need for ongoing antiretroviral treatment. A sterilizing cure is one where the HIV virus is eradicated from the body completely, including from hidden reservoir. There is only one known person who's been cured in this way, Timothy Brown, also known as the Berlin patient. Lastly, vaccines. A number of HIV vaccine trials show encouraging results. However, so far, a vaccine would only offer partial protection and would need to be used in combination with other prevention and treatment options. Modern society preparation against a resurgence of HIV and AIDS. Today, HIV and AIDS still prevail among countries in the world, especially in African and American countries. Researchers and scientists continue to pave way for finding promised treatments and a vaccine to treat and end HIV and AIDS. It is pleasing to know that nowadays, medical institutions and organizations work together to educate people and raise awareness on this pandemic. Even beauty queens and famous personalities like Miss Universe 2015 Pia Wurtzbach use their voices to break the stigma and eliminate discrimination and fear among people with HIV and AIDS. At present, the internet and social media plays a major role in our daily lives. As a student and netizen, I must use my privilege to educate myself and others about HIV and AIDS, and be responsible on using my voice to uplift people who cannot stand and speak for themselves. Concludingly, a pandemic is a phenomenon which is never expected to happen. However, it is our duty and responsibility as modern-day individuals to be informed, prepared, and educated on what a pandemic might bring. I believe that life is precious, and education and preparation are powerful instruments which can be used to lower the risk and danger to human lives. Thank you for watching.